Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Priyanka. Welcome to another webinar in Abhyas series. Here we are in Mauritius. I'm dialing in from Mauritius. Beautiful sunny day today. And today we have a really exciting topic. But before I dive into that, I thought I might just mention a little bit about what these webinars are all about. Why are we doing them here at Abhyas? So these webinars are very much designed to bring together a community of like-minded individuals so that there's an opportunity for everyone to expand their awareness based on topics that we set here at Abhyas. However, these webinars are not really designed to provide solutions per se to our participants, but it's always been the case that our panel members have been so generous that they've shared their tools and their tips and their tricks with people. So by all means, please do grab a pen and paper, jot down notes, things that are interesting and that you want to apply in your life as well. So here at Abhyas, our vision is very much through the application of experiential knowledge. We envision a paradigm shift in society's perspective, equipping society with the ability to face the challenge as it is. Just no judgment, just facing it as it is. And here our mission is that we are committed to equipping individuals with equal opportunities by providing professional training to impart courses on mental well-being, creating a better future for every human being and humanity at large. And as our founder, Namdeo, says, that all transformations have one thing in common: the turnaround in the perspective on what they have been through. And that's why our topic is so relevant today. Today's topic is all about evolving through success and failure. So it's an opportunity here today to reflect on how both success and failure shape the way we grow, learn, and how we evolve. So before we dive into our exciting discussions, I'd like to warmly welcome our panel member today. So our panel member, Rebecca Andrew, is here with us. She's the owner at Changing Edge. And Rebecca has spent over 20 years in leadership roles in corporate and in not-for-profit organizations before deciding to focus on her passion for helping others through a well-being lens. Rebecca's personal experience is what has driven her to become a helping practitioner, qualified in numerous wellness fields and in therapies. She is also a former competitive ice skater, and Rebecca is a world championship level referee and judge, has taken on roles around the world to give back to this unique sport. So it's such a pleasure to have you with us here today, Rebecca. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Priya. Nice to be back.
So what I thought would be really cool actually is to learn a little bit about your journey and how you've come to this amazing position where you are now with this amazing company you've created. And what is it about this topic that most resonates with you? Thank you.
Absolutely. This topic is so relevant for everything. And I think whether it's sport, whether it's corporate life, everything we do in life, family, like the whole shebang, everything is success or failure, but really is it? And keeping that in perspective as well is something that just impacts your whole life. And
Mm,
um, topics within areas like that, they spill over to the rest of your life and to the way we
mm,
interact with people, our communities, our work, and
mm,
how we view ourselves and our personal goals as well. So I think
mm,
looking at all of that initially for me through sporting and school lenses, and then as you
mm,
move into corporate life,
mm,
families, relationships, all those kinds
mm,
of things. You know, it's the common thread. The application, the topic changes, but how we manage ourselves throughout that is consistent. So it's about, I guess, staying true to yourselves. And I think I saw an opportunity, and
mm,
this is a really relevant topic to everyone I work with. Quite often I do goal setting sessions with skaters and athletes
mm,
in other sports as well. So
mm,
that is really setting yourself up for success
mm, mm.
and keeping those values in perspective as well. Are things
mm,
really failures, or are they
mm,
just,
mm, mm,
little hurdles in the
mm,
path, or maybe things don't go as smoothly as planned and you
mm,
just need to adjust a little bit. So yeah,
mm, mm.
definitely. Lots of ways that this topic, when you mentioned that, was I just felt was so relevant and so important to how we view ourselves and how we view life in general and how we
Yes,
show up to the
absolutely.
world.
Definitely, definitely. And so, I think, you've had such a vibrant career where you've worked in sports, you've worked with athletes, and then you've also worked in the corporate sector, and now you have your company. I mean, it would be so amazing to know a little bit more about how is it that you have supported, contributed to yourself, but also contributed to others' growth and evolution, and how is it that, like, it would be good to have a bit of a conversation about us reflecting really on success and failure, how they both contribute to our growth and evolution.
100%. So I
Mm,
think the first thing in my mind when you do that is setting the scene, like what is success and what is failure. So some things are pretty obvious. It's like passing or failing an exam or achieving or not achieving a target. Um, but really, there are so many degrees of success and failure. So, is it just the big goal wasn't achieved, or is it getting through a to-do list, which is just plenty of little things that just need to be done? Like that's still a success if you get through that list.
mm,
Um, so, achieving targets like going for a walk or, failing by eating the whole bag of chips. So, I think really getting that perspective as far as a starting point. Uh,
mm,
as you said, yeah, definitely. I've worked with athletes and officials from around the world. I
mm,
definitely love training and that learning, facilitation phase. I've run seminars overseas and throughout Australia and have a couple more coming up in the next couple of weeks, actually. So, definitely
mm,
facilitating that human evolution and trying to help people become the best that they can be, really, in whatever it is that they're trying to achieve at that point in time. So it might be that they're just starting out on their journey and helping to set them
mm,
up for success right from word go. Um,
mm,
as an official or as a skater, or
mm,
maybe they're, a really high level and just need to bounce some ideas off someone and potentially have a different way of looking at things. I think even when
mm,
I'm judging, I go into every
mm,
competition with a new goal for that event and go, okay, so this competition, I'm going to do all the things that we have to do, which is quite a long list in every discipline, shall I say. But also I go, you know what, this comp I really want to focus on being better, being a better judge in this specific
mm,
criteria. So,
mm,
that way every time you put yourself out there to assess a skater or show up at
mm,
an event, you're still learning and you're growing as a person as well. So, I do that
mm,
for
mm,
myself, but I also help others in that space as well. Same with corporate. So I
mm,
think in that corporate land, we've all been on that corporate hamster wheel that we've
mm,
spoken about previously, um, and trying to help people do that better as well. So, we hit so many successes throughout our corporate lives, but do we actually remember what most of them are? So I
mm,
think that was something
mm,
that I've learnt about myself over the years is that I think I've tended to be pretty good at celebrating others' successes, but
mm,
maybe
mm,
not so much my own. So when my friends have passed exams or achieved in various aspects of their lives, I celebrate them. I might take them out for lunch or share it in a newsletter or point them out in a meeting,
mm,
send them some congratulations of some description for sure. But
mm,
however, when it
mm,
comes to recognizing or even remembering my successes, I'm
mm,
pretty terrible, to be honest. So there are some things that I remember, and
mm,
internally
mm,
I'm proud of, like such as big exams or qualifications. But when it comes to shorter term goals and stepping stones, I'm awful at recognizing and remembering these. So I don't stop to celebrate. I just move on to the next step quite quickly. And the recent achievement tends to be a distant memory almost as soon as it's occurred. So I think if someone asks me what I've achieved, my initial reaction would be not much because I'm still working towards that next milestone. So
Mm,
I've
mm,
recognized that as a weakness in myself. So now I try to take note of my achievements along the way. So I
mm,
think potentially like a logbook of milestones, so a list of KPIs I can look back on.
mm,
And I think with life being so packed and full, so fast moving, it's a good way to remember what we've achieved and
mm,
be able to take stock of our progress. I think that's really
mm,
important. And I really wish I understood that years ago, how important that would be, to take a moment and actually appreciate the progress along the way and a moment to recognize their successes before moving on. I think
mm,
that's a really important thing that I wish I'd learnt earlier on.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess like we'll definitely move into that space soon,
Yeah.
which will, I guess, allow us to really unpack why it is that we have these perceptions about success and these other perceptions about failure. But before we do move into that space, I'm really interested and keen to understand um, about failures and how you're seeing that they contribute to our growth and evolution. And again, with the three cohorts you've worked with and worked so well with, what have you noticed has shifted in these individuals as well in that space? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for starters, we need to look at what we're putting into it to understand how big an impact that failure has. So,
Mm,
what did it take to achieve or to maybe not be as successful in a goal? And how much did we actually commit to it in the first place?
mm,
So, is it
mm,
a
mm,
failure of a grand scale or really is it just a minor setback? So,
mm,
I think, the effort, was it a lot of work? Was there study
mm,
involved? Was there time? Was it commitment? Was it a financial investment? Or did you put your heart and soul into it? Did you
mm,
step outside of your comfort zone? Like all these different things contribute so much to what our
mm,
perception is, and
mm,
how we assess whether we've succeeded or failed, or is it actually
mm,
somewhere in
mm.
between? We're just not there just yet.
Okay.
So I think you know, also combining that with the degree of difficulty. So in the cohorts I've worked with, are we talking about an exam with a high failure rate that you've
Mm,
passed or that you've failed? Like, is failing really, you know, it, what is the percentage chance straight up? Like, did you
mm,
commit yourself fully? Did you do
mm,
everything you could do to prepare? Or
mm,
did you maybe not
mm,
back yourself as much as you should have? And
mm,
maybe the
mm,
outcome was inevitable. Um,
mm, mm,
or are we talking about something so minor as like reading a briefing document that you're not really that interested in?
mm.
And it sits on your to-do list all week. And so technically you failed because you didn't read it on that day that you intended to. But
Mm,
that's not going to stop the world, right? So
mm,
I think it's
mm,
really important to keep things in perspective. And then
mm,
when we think about that, identify what what you do well, what you don't do so well, or maybe what you need some more
mm,
training in, or just even some more thought process around. I
mm,
think we can then decide, through success and failure, if there are opportunities for us to develop further, if there are things that we can capitalize on and harness as a superpower, or if there are things we need to develop, like things that might be important for us to know, or things that we really need to be good at or learn for our jobs that maybe, don't really ignite us, don't set that spark.
mm,
Um,
mm,
but maybe it's part of something that you do and that you love, but you've identified as a weak point. So really, I think there's this whole range, and I think maybe when you've tried something different and figured it out that it's not for you, or maybe that
Mm,
it is for you. Um,
mm,
it's just maybe something you don't enjoy. So, like, there are all these different factors, but I think really the most important thing is to learn from every experience and to assess things objectively after. So we sort of go, okay, I did that really well. Maybe that's something I
mm,
want to do more of, delve
mm,
further down the rabbit hole of, learn more about, become an expert or a master in. Or maybe it's something that really just isn't for me.
mm,
And I
mm,
focus my skills in a different area.
mm,
So I
mm.
think there's this whole range, and the spectrum is so large in this topic.
Absolutely.
So I think just that constant willingness to assess our progress and learn from every experience is how we, become better humans. So
Absolutely. And I really loved how you mentioned about reflecting on how much effort are we putting into doing X, Y, Z, and how that effort we put in is almost like it's driven by something within us, where if we're interested in it, if there's that self-interest, then we put in more effort. And when there isn't, we
absolutely.
put in less effort. It's
Yep.
fascinating, actually. And so I guess it's a case of how much involvement are you giving? How much of self-involvement is there?
Yeah. Are
And
you
as you
committed?
mentioned, yes, absolutely. And so, I'm really interested to actually understand because this was something that came up in a previous webinar. This question came up. In the corporate sector, when people talk about failure, there's a few things that kind of came up in this discussion, which was around how our leaders see failure. So I'm interested in knowing what's been your experience in navigating the pathways with leaders and how they see failure and how has that helped them, or maybe it hasn't helped them, hard to say. How has it evolved or allowed them to grow and therefore had that, I guess you could say, ripple effect on everyone that they manage or lead?
Absolutely. Halfway through your question there, I was thinking, oh, this is such a two-tiered answer because we obviously need to look at how do leaders
Mm,
act on failure themselves, but then also what's the impact on the team and the greater organization. So,
mm,
absolutely, I think good leaders will recognize that they're always learning, always growing.
mm,
The world is evolving around them and you can't stay still. You must keep stretching and you must keep reaching. And that's not always going to work. So, I think again it's about keeping failures in perspective. For sure, if you take some giant leap, some huge risk and it doesn't pay off, yeah,
mm,
you're going to need to answer for that, right? But
mm,
if if you're doing all the work and maybe something just hasn't quite hit the mark, it could
mm,
actually be an easy pivot for it to hit the mark. So,
mm,
particularly in big projects, sometimes by the time you get from the outset and the brief all the way through to delivery, the world might have changed a little bit, right? So maybe
mm,
it's not 100% on the bullseye anymore, but with this
mm,
slight evolution of the project or the brief or the
mm,
implementation, it can be a complete success. I think I've seen
mm,
examples also where things may have been considered a failure, but really are they? They solve a different problem. So it's not
mm,
always the intended purpose that something can be such a perfect outcome for. So I think that's something in itself, but
mm,
leaders and good leaders will be aware of how these failures, so to speak. I really don't love that word, by the way.
yeah.
So how how these
Yeah.
failures
Yeah.
impact the greater organization and their teams, and they'll be really cognizant about how the team is aware of what's going on, what their mindset is. Are they seeing things during the process that maybe aren't quite on the money? And are they open to that feedback as you go through? So I
Mm,
think, you know, keeping your eyes open, ears open, that 360 as you go through, not
mm,
just waiting to hit that final end mark and then go, oh, so
mm.
did that work? We
Yeah.
need to,
Mm,
keep our teams engaged and motivated. So, the the whole team produces the best results, right? So if we keep our people engaged throughout and invite them to contribute and really keep everyone motivated and on track
mm,
to the goal, not necessarily just the steps in the process, I think that's
mm,
going to be really important as well.
absolutely. So I'm hearing that a big responsibility for leaders is being able to express that shared vision
Ah,
and that
100%.
motivation. Yes, yes. And I guess, what are your comments on leaders being able to establish a culture where people can feel safe to fail? It's not really failure, um, but where people can feel safe to kind of experiment and try different things. Yeah, interested in your views on that one.
Yeah, look, I think this is actually a much bigger challenge in so many organizations than it sounds. I think because
Mm,
organizations are running quite lean, everyone is time poor. There is so much admin and just
mm,
work that needs to be done.
mm,
It can be hard to facilitate people stepping back and bringing their most creative selves and looking big picture the whole time when they just have these to-do lists that are not getting any shorter. So
mm,
I
mm,
think really trying to give flexibility and to allow allow your teams to really just have this open forum and express
mm,
ideas. I worked in one place many years ago where we had a room that we just had ideas all over the walls. So each
mm,
morning we could come in and just put up post-it notes or
mm,
different, if we had produced anything, we could stick it to the wall to add to the idea and the concept. And each week we all got together as a team and went in and had a look and sort of went, okay, is this still where we want this to go? Or is there something that's happened during the week that we think would be a really great addition or something that would impact the direction we had previously thought we'd take? And just
mm,
always realign and bring that time to go, look, this is really important that we stay on track or we stay together in trying to solve this problem or
mm, mm,
not
mm,
necessarily solve a problem in some instances, that this vision achieve, that the next phase in the growth of the organization or the offer for the customer, whatever it might be, that is the really important project of the moment. Create time and create space and have that blue sky thing where anyone's opinion could be the thing that makes the difference and just brings the wow to the project or the event. So I think that was a really cool experience and something that I think is
mm,
culturally a good thing as well to make everyone's
mm,
opinions feel valued. And I think that was also really important that no one's ideas were just discounted. Yeah, there could be some funny things that you go, not quite sure how we'd implement that or whatever, but it's all food
mm,
for thought and you never know
mm.
what's going to come by people throwing around that idea. So I think
Yes.
having that fun, having that team bond and providing some space just away from the computer with the
Mm,
emails that just do not stop popping up
yes.
to allow people to discuss these ideas is really important.
Definitely. I mean, I just kept on thinking in my mind when you were saying about the to-do lists and that we always have a growing to-do list. And I know I find that as well with myself. So my question really to you is, what would you advise the audience who are watching this webinar today? Is there, is it a case that your to-do list and your ability to finish that to-do list equates to success or failure? Or are we looking at the to-do list completely wrong?
Absolutely. I think that is such a good question and something that is really relevant for me personally as well. I'm a to-do list queen. Like, I have to-do lists for every part of my life. And sorry, you frozen. Are you still there or I'm still moving? Are you there, Priyanka? Are you there? I think I'm still here, but
Hi,
I
can you
lost
hear
you for
me?
a moment. I wasn't sure if we lost
Okay.
the whole connection or just you.
Okay.
So
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Must be internet on my end.
no, all good, all good. Sorry. So, yes, I have to-do lists coming out of my ears, and I think one thing that I do for myself, which could
Mm,
potentially answer your question, is I have to-do lists that are things that have to happen. So, in essence, in my mind, I would equate that to a success
mm,
failure, pass fail kind of
mm,
list. They must get
mm,
done. But then I also
mm,
have my more aspirational to-do list. So
mm,
it might be things that just need to get done in the week, or things that might be get done in the month, or things that, you know what, when I have a spare moment, this is something I want to do.
mm,
So I think to-do lists come in various forms, and absolutely, I think I have them all. I have my paper and my electronic, and yeah, absolutely, so many. And they all serve different
mm,
purposes in the way I've set
mm,
them up. So I think
mm,
some are, yes, tick that box or not,
mm,
but others are a bit more free-flowing,
mm,
shall we say.
mm,
But I
mm,
think exactly as we were saying, they are never getting smaller, right? So every time you cross something off, something else pops up. So I think it's
yes,
about keeping perspective on that as well and going,
yes,
okay, really, is this my problem? Is this something
yes.
I need to do? Or am I taking on something that isn't really something I should be doing? And I guess
Mm,
all of these things depend on, where we are. So is it a
mm,
work thing? Is it a home thing? Is it a community thing? Where is this thing on my list coming from? And why
mm,
do I feel that it's landing on my list? And
mm.
consequently, which list is it landing on? So,
Absolutely. So it is a case of doing a lot of reflection and also really taking stock how we are perceiving whatever it is around us that we think we need to do, and of course our perceived expectations of what we need to do, just because that list
mm,
is continuously growing. So I think this actually is a good point for us to move into our next element, I guess, which is all about perception. So and everybody that we know has a different perception about success and failure. But actually, it's not just about perception of success and failure, it's just perception in general. So I'd really like to hear a little bit from you on what you have seen happening on the ground in those three cohorts you've worked with around, well, what is perception? We'll start there
yeah,
first. Mm,
absolutely. So I think getting back to one of the things we said right at the start was, is it really a failure? Like, do we tend to just accept success and dwell on failures? Like, I think quite often people do. And in my experience, when you work with individuals, they tend to dwell on the failures, they remember the failures. But like we said, sometimes you go, so what did you achieve? And they hesitate. So I think really trying to keep a balanced view of what we're achieving is really important. And then, we get to different factors that influence success and failure, so to speak, as well. So it's like,
mm,
was the goal or the project or whatever it was completely in your control, or was the result a bit out of
mm,
your control? So quite often we're seeing people going, oh, I applied for this, whether it be a grant or a job or a whatever, and maybe they weren't successful. But really, was it because they had a really bad pitch, or was it just because there were so many deserving applications that it was a really tough crowd and a really tough decision? So, it's about the perception. Like, am I a failure, or was it a really tough choice for whoever had to make that choice? So I think there's a lot in that. I think partway through, like, did the goalposts move? So, like we were sort of saying with those corporate examples, were you on one path and then maybe the world changed? So, you know, I guess another one is failure 99% in an exam, not 100%. Like, I've worked with people who, if it's not 100%, it wasn't successful. However, the pass mark might be
Mm,
50 or 60 or 70, whatever that might be. So it's
absolutely.
still a success, but in their mind, it's a failure. So
Mm,
really, it's really is about perspective. Are we judging things by our standards or other people's standards? And if someone
mhm,
else achieved what you just did, what
mm,
would you say to them? Like, would you be
mm,
happy for them? And would you
mm.
congratulate them? And would you go, oh my gosh, that was amazing, well done? Or would you go, oh, you only got 99. Like, I'm really disappointed in you. Like, you wouldn't. It's just so not a thing. Totally not a thing. So I think,
Oh, definitely.
keeping perspective is a really underrated skill. Um,
Mm,
I think if you think about athletes, sorry, I know you said sort of corporate, but if we think about the athlete cohort, right? In most
mhm,
sports, each year there can only be one world champion in a specific class or whatever it
mhm,
is. So
mhm,
for one person or one team each year, they achieve success. Does that mean that every other athlete failed?
mhm,
Logically, no, right? So they may not have achieved the pinnacle of their pinnacle goal
mhm,
that year, but they still competed. They still demonstrated
mm,
talent that billions would be amazed by. And we really need to maintain some perspective. So expanding on that example, like if the goal was to win the world championship, technically all bar first place failed. And but there's just so much more that needs to be considered. So if the focus was really on one goal, we've effectively discounted every other goal and stepping stone that led to the huge achievement of even competing in that World Championships. So think
mm,
about the huge amount of commitment and achievement along the way. So I think really perspective is so important, and it is important for everything, like we said before, to learn from the experiences, to enjoy the participation and enjoy what we're learning from each step and each moment. And really take those as educational experiences and things that make us stronger as people. So I
yeah.
think actually I read something a couple of weeks ago, I think that it was something along the lines of maybe you don't realize how far you've come because you keep raising the bar.
Mm.
So I think
Oh,
that's
wow.
yeah, that I found really quite profound and went, yeah, that is so true in pretty much every aspect and every cohort I deal
Mm.
with as well. So
That's really interesting. And look, I mean, I'm really glad that you did actually expand into what happens in the world of championships and in the world of sports as well. Because I think that that's a really important thing as well, to, especially when you were mentioning that every year you have one team who becomes the champion. Well, does that equate to all the others failing? No, of course it doesn't. It is all about what you mentioned earlier about involvement, your commitment. All of these aspects add to it. So Rebecca, my next question is let's get deep into these perception elements, shall we? So we talk about how like we were just talking about it right now actually, that when people have a success, they get excited about it and everything. But they may have many successes and have one failure, and that one failure
yeah,
is enough to bring them down. So that also there's an element of perception there as well. So I guess my question is, where do you think these perceptions come from? Where do they begin?
absolutely. I think a lot of people who I work with, it starts at school. So, but then I think the world has changed in that respect as well. So it'll be interesting to see the new generations coming through. So, it was all about getting the high marks at school or getting the certificate or getting the star on the chart on the wall. And then all of a sudden it swung to this, everyone gets something for participating and no one sort of stands out. So I
Mm,
think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next, you know, couple of decades and sort of go, is that going to create a big change? Um,
mm,
but I think our memories are, what was that one time that someone got in trouble for something? You remember that as opposed to the 20 times that someone got a pat on the back or a clap or whatever that positive reinforcement is. Because we tend to appreciate that feeling in the moment, but it doesn't haunt us. So people tend
mm,
to, you see all those things on social about, your mind absolutely going crazy at 3 a.m. about all these tiny little moments from 2 decades ago that maybe you did one thing wrong and that, still haunts you. So I think we're probably in a much better place in the world right now to be able to deal with those things, and hopefully they won't haunt us forever moving forward. But I think the whole trying to deal with those little setbacks in a positive way. Like, so it's about how you frame them. They're learning opportunities. It's not, oh, look, you got 99 that time. That wasn't good enough and it's not up to standard. So let that wake you up at 3 a.m. in 20 years' time. Um, you know, I think it's about really going, okay, so there was an area
mm,
there I can learn from and I'll do better
mm,
next time and keep on moving forward. So um,
mm,
that all these tiny little things, though, do tend to add up and they compound. So it's
mm,
really important for us to look at ourselves and our family and friends and community and sort of, break those boulders that are growing of these tiny little negative things that grow into snowballs. So positive reinforcement, not just for positive reinforcement's sake, I'm definitely not saying that, but when people do achieve wonderful things, or
mm,
like I was saying with friends who've, achieved accomplishments over the years, it's important to celebrate and continually, show that they're valued and respect their time and their expertise. I think just that basic humanity of being a good person and spreading that to those around you is a really underrated quality in a lot of communities. The world's so good at bringing people down. Um, we need to lift
yes.
people up a bit more, bit of that tall poppy syndrome at times as well.
Absolutely. No, that's really interesting. And you were mentioning about how these perceptions they come into form as children.
Mm,
Would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on that, particularly like um, our perceptions being shaped based on what we see as children, and even in those situations or those circumstances of success and what people perceive as failure. But
yeah.
what is it that makes that happen? How does it, I guess, happen for children? Why is it that
Yeah.
they form this? Mm,
Yeah, I think that's two prong. I think sometimes you see those people who just excel at everything held up on a platform all the time. And, people can go, oh, that'll never be me. So it's about trying to help people find what they are good at or what their strengths are earlier in life. Um,
mm,
it's participate for fun, for friends, all those kinds of things. When I do goal setting workshops and things for our younger skaters, quite often it's about what is it that you, why do you skate? What do you enjoy? Is it being with your friends? Is it learning a new skill? Is it learning to spin or learning to jump? Um, Figuring out what it is that's going to um, going to give them enjoyment and make them feel value in what they're doing and what they're trying, what they're achieving, what they're contributing,
Mm,
making them
mm,
feel really, really important. And like what they're doing is for a reason. I think on the flip side of that, you
mm,
have those kids who are just awesome at so many things. Then all of a sudden they find something that maybe they're not so good at. And it's how do you manage that as well? Because that one moment or that one little blunder or, that one fall in a moment where they never fall, that can haunt them. So I think the onus is really on us, to help and at that point in time in their lives, really let them know that that's really it's one moment. It's not going to make or break you. It's not something you need to worry about. You know what?
mm,
It happened, move on.
mm,
I had
mm,
a friend, when I was really little, go out and she fell over getting into her starting position, and it was like the world was about to die. Like, the world was stopping in that moment for her. And you think, obviously, that was so impactful in that moment, and it probably would be for quite a while more. And, beautiful new dress, all those things little girls care about. Um, but really, in the scheme of things, you don't want to minimize it at the time, but over time, you do just want to go, you know what?
mm,
It's not going to
mm,
change your life. It's fine. Things happen, and it's about how you help and give our kids the tools to deal with those little setbacks and make them realize they're not failures. They're setbacks, and there are things that happen, and things are going to happen like that throughout life. So,
absolutely. And you are very right in saying that. Like, I mean, it kind of got me thinking about when I was a kid, and I spent 1 year abroad in China with my family, and I was surrounded by children who were just good at like 99.9% of the things that you do in school. So it was just like, well, why should I bother kind of thing. But, I had to really change my perspective and look at it. Well, hang on a second. I've got a huge group of people here who could really coach me, who could support me and help me get better and better at what I'm doing. So if I hadn't changed my perception at that point in time, I could have, really seen it as, oh, the world is ending kind of thing. And you're right. This is what's so important for children to be able to understand. And as adults, it is our responsibility as teachers, as parents, as caregivers, or whatever it might be, guardians even, to
yeah.
really support children, so that they can see that. Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
have a story from a competition I was away judging, and it was a very low level competition in a very small rink. The community spirit was amazing, and they had a little boy doing the announcing, and he was welcoming the skaters to the ice and introducing them and what have you. And I was talking to him after the event, and you know, the this little kid was incredible. And I asked him, how and why are you here introducing and doing all the announcing? And he goes, oh, I'm kind of a big deal. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. And he goes, yeah, look, I'm known, I'm really good at this. And, someone had obviously built his confidence and he was owning it. And you sort of think, whoever did that did a great job. You put this kid on a football field, he'd probably just be totally pummeled. But that is not his forte. But someone has helped him find his
Mm,
moment and find what he's good at and find something that could potentially set him on a path for the rest of his life. Whether he ends up going in that space professionally or whether he becomes the community MC and, helps bring joy and bring towns together. Who knows? But whoever,
mm.
found this kid and gave him this job and set him up for success in that moment, definitely deserved a pat on the back. I love that.
That's so sweet. I love that too. I mean, I love being able to meet kids who say things like that, who just really are advocating for themselves in this way and accepting their gifts. it's almost like the culture we live in today, people don't spend enough time doing that, like as you mentioned. Um,
Yeah.
but also, I'm interested to know, how do you think this sort of perception can be, well, I can't say, I don't think it's possible for us to change an organization. We can change ourselves, and that can have an impact on the change in the organization. But I'm really interested to understand a little bit more about when you do work with, when you have worked with corporates, or when even when you've conducted all these amazing seminars across the world. Have you experienced, or have you come across people who have asked about how can we change our perceptions about success and failure in the workplace? And have they, kind of been in that position to recognize where it's coming from in the beginning?
Yeah, I think this sort of links in with the alignment piece as well. So
Mm,
I think when we work in line with our values, we often achieve more and we feel a greater sense of accomplishment and a heightened feeling of success. So when we work, um, the work that we achieve in line with our values is authentic, it tends to flow, it provides more enjoyment and often has greater impact, right? So when we're
mm,
authentic with our work, we tend to put more into it. But sometimes
yeah.
we're asked to complete work that doesn't really align with our core values. So, there are various
Mm,
degrees of this, just from
mm,
work that doesn't contradict our values, but it just doesn't enhance them, right the way through to things that we really don't
mm,
agree with. So I think it's really
mm,
important to stay true to ourselves and to act with integrity. So when people sort of talk about failure, you sort of go, okay, so back to, was that a failure in the project? Was it a failure in the communication of what the
mm,
objectives were, or how it was going to be implemented? Or is the organization just siloed and maybe the different parts of the puzzle weren't communicating? Um,
mm,
was Quite often I find when that's the case, the team as a whole hasn't bought into the project in the same way. So it's
mm,
not authentic for the structure of the
mm,
organization or the people within the teams. It's like you're just given a bit of a job and you're that piece of the puzzle and don't worry about the rest of it. So I think when
mm,
people feel ownership and um,
mm,
feel important to the bigger picture, that's
mm,
where the opportunities can be really realized. So I think sometimes we can feel like we miss opportunities as a result of not being quite aligned with the project, or
mm,
having the oversight, or having influence in areas where you see opportunities, and think that you could really make a difference, or this bit of the puzzle really works with that bit of the puzzle, but someone isn't connecting them. Um,
mm,
but so we really all have the opportunity at times to positively influence projects and achieve better results. So I think providing opportunities for our teams and our people to really, like we were saying, come in and feel that they can communicate and can contribute
mm,
in a way that feels authentic to them,
mm.
is really important as well. So.
Absolutely. Yes, you were right. Like, in terms of the more connected we are to our values, the more we can, I guess, in a way, shape and conduct ourselves when we're dealing with success and failure. But would you say, Rebecca, that, I'm really interested in us unpacking this a little bit further, just purely based on observations, particularly in corporate, but it could be in any space that you've worked in. Actually, I'm very keen to hear your views on all these areas you've worked in. But it seems that when people experience success, and please correct me if you haven't noticed this to be the case, when people experience success, they seem to be more connected to their values at that point. Or it's almost like they see their success as a value. But when it comes to failures, people seem to just forget the values exist at all. And then that has an impact on the conduct as well. So I'm really interested in hearing your views on those aspects too.
Oh, you're right. It so links to behavior, right? So I think when people are gifted something or they achieve something, whatever, they become role models in that field. So they're aware of how they act, how they're portrayed, how they come across to people. When people fail, again, at that word, maybe something doesn't go right, quite often you get the blame game going on, or you get, sticking your head in the sand or pretending it never happened. And all of a sudden, the integrity of those people starts to waver a bit. It's really hard. And I think that's where it comes to the point of, okay, how good are you at learning from experiences? You tend to find the people who don't respond well behaviorally to failures are those who don't quite have the EQ going on. They don't understand the emotions and the impact and the learning experience that that failure could provide. Um, but I think sometimes that's a result of the environment. If it's a really challenging, threatening kind of environment, or an environment where people are pointed at and go, that didn't work or whatever, as opposed to the leadership just going, look, this is maybe not where we thought we'd be at this stage, but there are still opportunities to turn this around, or how do we pivot, or what do we need to do as a team? Um, Sometimes things shouldn't only rest on one person's shoulders. You don't need to just shoot that one person down in the meeting. Um, you know, if we're structuring ourselves right, hopefully things are going to be a team project, team responsibility, and all the team is working together to achieve the goal. Um, I have worked at some places where maybe it's not so much like that. And you can have people with opposing objectives for things who relish the moment that something doesn't work for someone else. So, it's not always on the one person that it's not working for. Um, but I think really it's about being decent humans and really trying to recognize and work as a team and go, okay, so if this isn't working right, let's all work together and figure out how to make it happen. Um, and the same way, when things are achieved and huge successes are realized, it's also really important to not just go, oh, look what I did. It's, normally it's a team effort. It's not just the manager standing up there going, yeah, I'm responsible for this. It's probably the manager and their whole team. Probably a lot of the grunt work was done by the team. So it's important to share that kudos as well.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So I guess my next question is about, well, how can we as individuals, what kind of changes do we need to make so that we can be more connected to our core values and be able to function from that place and conduct ourselves appropriately in success and failure?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most important lessons of all is to never compromise your integrity. So I'd say always stay in line with your truth. Nothing is lost when you remain honest. That doesn't mean we all can't learn as we go through life, but it's important to expose ourselves to new thoughts and opinions, and to learn really on an ongoing basis. I think as we progress through life and as our knowledge and um, experience bases expand, our perceptions and our values will evolve, but we can't lose sight of what we believe is right and continue to be true to ourselves. So I think that's probably the most important thing. And then everything just flows from there, because if you stay true to yourself and you have a learning mindset, then everything, you take all these opportunities, you take all the lessons from all these experiences, and you constantly learn from and engage with others to really be on this path of continual improvement. And I think that's probably the most important thing that I believe at this point anyway.
Absolutely. Oh wow, look, I mean, it's really good what you're sharing. And I'm seeing some amazing comments that have come in through in the chat as well. We had a question for our audience, which was very much about how have moments of success or failure shaped the way you see growth in your own life? So we had comments around emotional resilience improves, and that particularly happens when we experience failure.
Oh,
Yes,
100%.
yeah.
Emotional resilience is so important. Absolutely,
Mm,
100%. So I think
mm,
being resilient in our lives is a really underrated skill, and it's something that we should probably focus on a bit more.
yes.
Life throws
Definitely.
curveballs all the time, and you
Yes,
never know when they're going to come. So that emotional resilience is such an important piece of the puzzle in my mind.
definitely, definitely. And I guess another comment that came through was failure gives feedback, and that feedback is essential for growth. So maybe we can replace the word failure to feedback, potentially.
Yep. Very insightful audience I think we have here tonight.
Very. Yes, it's really good. Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's been amazing having you here with us together today, Rebecca. So many rich and powerful insights have come through in our webinar today. We've spoken from a whole range of topics. We started with talking about um, success and failure and how both play a role in shaping us and in allowing us to grow and in allowing us to evolve. And then we talked a bit about how the root of that starts with your perception, all about how you perceive that success or that failure. We spoke about how what you may perceive as a failure, if you're not looking at it from a broader perspective, like we used examples of championships, we used examples of school grades and exams, then that can really narrow your perception and obviously can impact on how you see a specific situation. And we also spoke about values. We spoke about integrity, staying true to our values, staying true to our integrity, and the phenomenal and important pivotal role that plays in our conduct. So, whether we're working with athletes, whether we're working across the world with other organizations, whether we're trying to build a new culture in the workplace, we also spoke about it all starts with our leaders. So this has been really amazing, and I'm interested to know if there was any final points that you wanted to share with us today before I close our webinar.
Yeah, I think just thank you again. It's so important to have these topics really brought to the forefront. As we said, I think the world is has changed a lot over the years and is still changing. And it's really important for us to stay open to change and really keep things in perspective, but continue to learn. So I think, opportunities like webinars like this are really important, for us to keep learning ourselves as well. And insights from those who've joined us are really important. So thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you so much. I really believe that I'm in a very privileged position where I get to learn from all different people who have come from different levels of expertise and areas of experience. So for me, it's been really good. Every webinar is an opportunity for me to broaden my own perspective, actually. And so, well, this is a wonderful place to, I guess, where I could just close our webinar for today and just sharing about our institute, Abhyas Institute of Universal Awareness. So we are actually the research hub for mental health and wellbeing. We are the national research hub for mental health and wellbeing, based in Mauritius. And we focus very much on physiological, psychological, emotional, social factors, because we know that all of these do contribute to an individual's overall mental health. And so within that realm, we have these webinars so that we can have this platform for people to talk freely about mental health and well-being and an opportunity for all of us to expand our understanding. So if you've enjoyed this webinar today and you'd like to continue staying in touch with Abhyas, then on the bottom right corner of your screen is our QR code to follow us on LinkedIn. And of course, our website is in the bottom left corner of our screen, abhyas.mu, where you can learn a little bit more about what we do here. And with that, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. And all the very best. And bye for now. Thank you.
Thanks so much.